Hello and welcome back, this is ProTaleDev back with another Dungeon Farm Tycoon. So the first thing we're going to be looking at today is a quick mention that I've reset the layout because it was getting a little bit messy, so I've done a little bit of a cleanup, and you'll see that with my scripts as well. So I've actually gone through all my scripts and organised them a little bit. So we've got attributes, we've got character inventory and items, we've got the crafting, we've got the player, we've got the enemy monsters, script specific, we got the manager and systems, and we finally got the Tycoon editor, so the dungeon editor. And this is all organised just to make things easy for me because we were getting quite a lot of scripts. Now that I've done a quick introduction, let's actually get straight into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is that last week I didn't upload because I actually didn't have time to record. I was a bit busy, but because of that I've actually got more things done, so there's quite a lot this week to go over. The first thing is the weapon crafting. So now all of the weapons have been completed in the blacksmith forge, so it's just been a quick rename, and I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like. And by finished I mean that they've also got all of their materials. So I've also reorganized this section so it's a little bit shorter, so now we have the melee and the ranged on the melee on the left, ranged on the right, and it's a little bit more compact, and also the rating is also set correctly. So to show that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the recipe lock, and that'll get rid of all the locks that are on them, and you'll be able to see what weapons we've got. So if I just hover over the craft button, you'll be able to see that the materials needed will change. It'll vary based on the actual item, and they'll need different types of crystals from the dungeon, different types of ores that are created from the production line, and different variations of wood. So you can see that's all correct and finished, and we can craft any one of these that we want. So if we go for this wide sword, obviously we don't have enough resources at the moment, but if you do click on it, it will start the crafting sequence and you will be able to craft a specific number of them. And of course you can check how many you've got in the in here inside of our character inventory. Now the unlock that I've just disabled is associated with the specific rating, and they are, as I mentioned, already set up. So the highest one you can get is 1100, but your rating can go higher than that. It's just whatever you've got. Another thing is that I've added a brand new particle effects into this game in order to help me kind of create new effects without having to create a lot of art for it. Just downloaded a free set from Unity Store. These particle effects were the cartoon effects that were free, done by Jean Morena. So you can easily download these on the Unity Store, and they are for free. If you want to check out those effects, you can always download them yourself. So what have we done with those effects specifically? And what I've used those effects for is the monsters, and they will be used for the weapons, but that's not done yet. And at the moment I've only got the young devil and the water drop monsters that are set up with their effects, but I'm going to show you what the effects I've used so far. So for the young devil, we have the damage that is now working, so whenever you get hit, the damage effects are correct, so you'll see like a little spark. And you'll also see a death effect and an attack effect. So if I show you this hit one, this is what happens when the player hits this enemy with a specific attack. They'll do like a little spark effect, which shows that they're being hit. There will be the animation still playing where they turn red, but the one where they twist when they die has been changed with this death effect. All of these enemies are going to have a death effect that is similar to this, if not identical, and all it does is just allows the player to know that they have died. It looks very cool. Then we have the actual damage effect. So each enemy is going to have the hit effect and the death effect pretty much the same, but the actual attack effect is going to be varied and going to be different. There might be multiple effects for the attacking, or there might be just a single one. In this case it's a single one, which is the fire shield effect, and this is going to play whenever the enemy is doing its attack. But let's move to the water drop. So the water drop is another one that I've done, and same thing, it's got the hit, it's got the death. However, in this case it's actually got a water splash, and the way this water splash is going to work is that it's just going to splash on top of where the the actual enemy is, and then there'll be a random effect within a certain radius somewhere else where it'll hit the player. Oh, and a quick mention that the UI for our materials is also on here in our shop, so you can open this whenever you want. As long as you're not in the actual adventuring, you'll be able to see and open this up so you can see what materials you need for anything. Okay, so we're in our adventure now, and we can equip our sword, and immediately you'll see our monsters coming straight for us. But you'll see these random effects occurring, so they'll do the splash and they'll do it at random. Now if we start attacking, doing damage, the way these attacks work is that in their script they're on a specific timer, and when they reach 0, their effect will either vanish or activate. In our case, our effect is whenever you're close to this young devil, you'll actually take damage, fire damage from this guy, or burning damage, but his effect will turn off on its own, and then that's when you attack him. The water drop is pretty much the opposite, that you can always attack them, but being closer means there's a higher chance of the geyser effect, the splash effect being hit by it. So it's really a gamble, but you can just run around with these ones because they're lower level, and their speed is really just something that can match yours, so you can just outrun them or try and keep them away. We also have a destroy on player script, so that'll destroy any object that interacts with the player, so any of our crystals that we've created here, these are our prefabs which will randomly spawn from an enemy when they die. So every time you kill a monster, there's a 50-50 chance that a crystal will spawn, and it'll be a completely random one. So it could either be the aqua, the clear, the iris, the lime, the night, or it could be the rose. And they just spawn whenever a monster dies. We also have the destroy timed, which is on some of the enemies / monster attacks. So in our case, this is the geyser that spawns. So every time a new geyser instantiates and spawns, so we need to make sure that it actually gets destroyed after a certain amount of time. So in this case, after 4 seconds, the new geyser that's been spawned will be destroyed, ready for a new one to be spawned in after a certain amount of time. Now, next thing to show is actually our production UI shop. So for our new, we've actually got a new category inside of our shop, which is the production section. So production buildings are the lumberyard, the different types of mines for specific ores. So if we want to, let's just get rid of some of these and bring in our lumberyard. You'll immediately see that, first of all, the UI for everything is now fixed. So if I click this, you'll actually can see the bars. They were a bit broken before, but now they're working again. So now you can see the bars on the food and on the lumber. But for the production areas, the bar color is actually yellow, not green. For the water, it's blue. But yeah, production is yellow. So let's bring in a couple more ores, ore mines to be worked. For that, we're going to actually need to create a little bit of space. So let's quickly do that now. Create a couple of these and then bring our mines. What we can do is we can add a couple of these in. Let's add in all of the different ones. So of course we've got iron, copper, gold, steel, we've got silver, and the very last one I think is black rock. And these will all have different amounts of time that will generate specific ores. So as you can hear, we've already got one that spawns in straight away. Now we can click on the shop to bring up our grid and just have a look at how the bars are progressing. Of course, they're much slower than the lumber. The lumber is actually the quickest, I think, of all the production. The other ores are much slower. So as you can see them slowly generating over time. I'm just waiting until they hit 2. And with these ores, what we can do is we can actually craft something. But we need some crystals first. To get those crystals, of course, they're dropped by monsters, but I want to show what they look like inside of the dungeons itself. So yeah, these ores will now generate gradually over time, so you can leave them. And of course and as I mentioned, you buy. Now we can see what it looks like inside of a dungeon once a monster drops it by going into the dungeon itself. To do that, we can just go in here, go into our editor, and then place one of these down. Now I've already set up these crystals like predetermined so that I could show them, but they will just spawn with monsters. So I've just put them in here, and you'll be able to see what they look like. They'll have a slight glow on them, and they'll look quite nice. They're very easy to spot. So this one is the clear one. Then we have the aqua, which is blue, lime, the iris, the rose, and then the final one is the night, which is much harder to see. You could not have a stronger glow, but it is used to make the rarer items. So as we have that, what we can actually do is we can end adventure and have a look inside of our shop, and you can see now what we have 2 of each, as well as just 1 of those, and we have some materials. Now, can we do anything with these? Let's have a look. Of course, we can create a dagger. So the dagger is only 1 wood, 3 ore, and 2 aqua crystal. So what we can do is we can craft it, and it'll start beginning to crafting. Now, of course, we can do anything we want while we're waiting for that. We can go into other tabs and see what's happening, or we can check our progress on these. We can go into our character and we can see that we now have 1 dagger. So that shows that the crafting is working for the weapons, and the materials and everything works very well. Another thing to mention is inside that dungeon, I've disabled the selection point player, which is this specific point that I'm moving around right now, the yellow dot. I've disabled that when we're inside of the editor, inside of the adventuring, because before you could still interact with things with that point, and it would have it was causing a lot of issues, so I've disabled it whenever we're in there. If we look at the crafting for the potions, what we'll see is that this has actually been completed as well. Now I've disabled the lock on it so that we can see them all, and immediately what you're going to notice is that the materials is finished. So we can hover over the specific crafting and see what we need. So we need water and food for all of these potions. So it's something you're going to have to build up. And because water and food is quite necessary for keeping your island alive, and also for the NPCs to be happy, it's something you're going to have to manage quite well and try and build up an excess use for water and food. Now you're going to need crystals specifically, so you don't need any kind of ores for this. The ore is very much for the weapons and maybe the buildings, but I'm not too sure yet. And the specific crystals are necessary for both potions and weapons, but you'll need a lot more crystals in order to create specific potions. So if we hover over something that's a little bit lower, like the health, which is the lowest, you'll find that it's just 5 water, 3 food, 4 rose crystals, and iris crystals. The image isn't quite correct, but that's something I'm going to sort out later. But you can go all the way down to things like these. So the highest level, which is the strong potions of health, all the way down, which is 16 water, 12 food, 14 rose crystals, and 8 iris. You also notice that I've got actually some custom art that I actually made myself for the potions. It was easy enough, it's just the same thing but just different colours. And so this is like a beaker, a jar, and an actual flask or whatever. So, and that's just how you know that they're different. It's the same thing for the crafting. If you craft one of these, it'll change, it'll determine the colour, and if it's in your character inventory, when you go into a dungeon, you'll have the specific colour and potion. So that's the potions done. Now these potions actually do work, they actually are correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly add in some of these potions. Now the potions are working, they are in effect, and so that you can heal when you activate. Same thing as when so all you do is you equip it when you're in the dungeon and just press attack, your attack button, which is in this case, in our case it's left click on the mouse, and if it's selected it will activate that effect. So if it's just healing and it's like a small potion of healing, then it'll just do a little bit of healing, maybe like 25%, 20%. And then if you do something like the strong one, the strong health potion, that'll do it all the way. So increasing the damage for things like these strong potions will always the strength potions will always increase the melee damage. Power potions increases the range damage. It boosts them, and that's already sorted out in the script, so it's all working, it's all been tested. And then things like the hunger and the hydro, That's for the water and for the food bars that when you're inside the dungeon to refill those. So that's all working. So the last thing to show is the durability on the weapons. So if you go inside of our dungeon, we need to make sure we equip something first. So let's give ourselves a ton of materials and create a bunch of different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly spawn in a bunch of items for the swords and different types of weapons, and just to fill them in, and also do the same for our range just to show it off. And then I'll spawn in a bunch of potions as well, just so I can just show it equipped. So there we go, I've just put in a bunch of weapons, a bunch of things. So if I were to go in our character now, we can see what we've got. So as you can see, these icons aren't set up yet, but they will be at some point. And we can go ahead and look at what potions we got. So if we do a weak strength potion, let's equip one of those. This is the next thing that I can actually show. And if we got previously, if you had you didn't have any items, you could still equip and bring them into the dungeon. But now if this is 0, you won't be able to equip it. So if I click equip on any of these that are 0, so let's find a weapon that's 0. There you go, this rapier. If I click equip, it doesn't work, you can't do anything. But if I try and equip something that does actually have an item, it will work. So there you go. Let's equip some of these. Let's do, power potion. No, let's do a health potion actually. And then let's try and find a weapon. So we've got a basic dagger, so let's use our hammer. For some reason the icon, the text isn't working. I'll probably fix that, but it is on. It is working because I can equip it. Even though this says 0, I think it's just that the text isn't referenced properly. But it is working because I can equip. So once we got those set up, then we can just go into a dungeon. Of course, we've got our crystals there. And again, let's just set up one room and maybe just go in here and then just put in one single enemy. Exit, and then let's go into the dungeon and fight. So immediately you'll see down here that we have a durability bar. This is slightly different to what we had before, but now we have a bar and the number, so it's a little bit easier to see. We also have our weapon, which is correct, and we're just going to use our hammer here to attack. Did quite a lot of damage there. And what we can do is hit again. Doesn't affect, disappears, and respawns. Oh, and we did get a item that dropped. Now, the more times we use our weapon, the more durability drops down. So once it hits 0, it should disable the weapon, and it'll actually use one of our items. So right now we're at 74 hammers. But if I use this and get this past 0, it should drop down to 73. Which it has done. Now we can't use this weapon anymore, we can't attack. We've used it, so we can no longer do anything with it. We can use our potion, which I just did then, which is why our percentage just flew up massively with our hydro potion. And we can use our healing potion, which has now pushed our health back to 100%. Now we do have a strength potion, which I've just activated, but of course we've run out of durability, so we can't do anything with it. So let's leave the dungeon for now, and let's check at our amount of items we have now for our hammer. So it should say, yep, 73, so we've used one hammer. So that is all working now, it's all correctly selected and working, with the weapons successfully losing their durability and being destroyed. We also have our potions which are working, which you saw briefly for a second there. They don't have any effects yet, but they are working. So that has been last week and this week's and a little bit of the week before's progress. There's quite a lot in this, which is why the video is much longer. And next time what we'll be looking at is probably finishing off any kind of issues I've had for this recording and previously, but we'll also be looking at maybe trying to get all of the enemies having a specific attack and an effect, and trying to finish off the dungeon itself. I want to get that finished. Maybe finishing off the shop inside of the dungeon itself, and all the different items you can include. I want to try and get that done. So this has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.